All right, everybody. Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us on this Sunday evening. I don't know where you're coming from. I'm coming from North Dakota, and it's beautiful, which from this past winter and spring, which we didn't really have a spring, is saying a lot. So the fact that we had beautiful weather today was definitely something to be grateful for and to celebrate. So with that, we are going to get moving. I am going to talk to you a little bit tonight about 5 tools to shift your mindset. In this business, in this industry, in our life, we can get into situations and we can get into some mindsets that maybe don't help us. They don't help us succeed. So I want to give you some tools to help you sift and sort through that. But I want to get done as quickly as I can because I'm really excited about introducing Dr. Darren Leaton tonight. He is going to be talking to us on the science portion of the call, and he has some really interesting things to say and share with us. And I have a question for him too that I think may interest all of you. So as we get into this, we're just going to move. If anyone has any questions, you can, if there's a chat, I'm not sure if there's a chat on this one, or feel free to reach out and message me on social media. I'd be happy to chat with anybody afterwards. So 5 tools to shift your mindset. A little bit of a tongue twister for me. Tool number 1, self-talk, how we speak to ourselves. This is maybe one of the greatest tools that we don't think of, that we don't even really consider as we are moving through growth, whether it's professional growth, whether it's personal growth, wherever you are. Self-talk is something that you really need to become aware of. The most important conversation you're going to have in your life is the conversation that happens up here. And if you are being really hard on yourself, if you are speaking really negatively to yourself, it's more difficult for you to achieve the goals you want to achieve and for you to move forward than it would be if you were encouraging yourself and you were having a more positive mindset. I think that I don't even think we realize sometimes how we speak to ourselves. But once you do become aware, you're going to be shocked. And then I want you to think about, as you speak to yourselves, would you speak to anybody else that way? Would you speak to your spouse or your significant other that way? Would you speak to a friend that way? Would you speak to your children that way? As you think about that, really be conscious of, would you say these things to anyone else? And if you wouldn't, then why are you saying them to yourself? So tool number 1 is being more aware of your self-talk and then working to change that, working to take some steps to recognize when you're doing it so you can shift that. Step number 2, gratitude. Now, I recognize and want to point out that I understand that as I move through these, they may seem really, really simple, but the reason I'm talking about them is because they're simple, but they're not always easy. Sometimes these are things we take for granted. We don't really think about them in this context. We know that being grateful for things is a good thing, that we should do it, but how often are we really doing it? How often are we being grateful for all the small moments in our life? It's easy to be grateful for the big moments. So let's just put it into context with our LifeVantage business. It's exciting and you can be really grateful when you get a new customer, when you get a distributor, when you rank advance. Those are big moments. Those are fun things to celebrate and to be grateful for. But are you being grateful for every conversation that you're having, even the no's that you're getting? Because in every no, there's a lesson. In every no, there is something to take away from that. So working at understanding that gratitude is more than just about the big things. So something I would ask you to put into practice, something I do, is every morning, one of the very first thoughts I have in the morning is one of gratitude. Even if I wake up and I'm tired, I will simply say, I'm grateful to be alive this morning. I'm grateful to wake up. I am grateful that I have a job. I am grateful that I have the day to do what I'm going to do. The first thought in the morning is one of gratitude, as well as the last thought before you go to sleep at night. Have that be one of gratitude. It's very easy to wake up or go to bed with a to-do list on your mind and processing through it. So really take the time, spend a moment to be grateful in your heart, feel it in your heart, And that's how you're going to bed, and that's how you're waking up. It really is a way to set our day and set our intentions. And the last thing I would really urge you to do is start a gratitude list. Every day, start writing down 5 things, 10 things, 20 things that you're grateful for. Again, it's a quiet cup of tea in the morning. It's getting to drive my kids to school, getting to spend some extra time with them. Write down the things that you're grateful for. Tool number 3 for shifting our mindset is journaling. Kind of goes along with gratitude. I write my gratitudes down in my journal, but included with that in journaling is really processing our thoughts, really processing what's going on. Sometimes we can get in our heads and we allow for distractions, and we don't allow for our mind just to sit and to be and to think. We're constantly making up things to keep going. By sitting down and journaling, you're really able to spend time with your thoughts. You're able to get out on paper maybe some things that you just needed to get out, and then they're over and done with. If you just write it out and get it out of you, then it's over and done with, and you can move on. There's no one way to journal. So I wouldn't say, only write down the negative things or only write down the positive things. Sometimes when I journal, it's just writing down my gratitudes for the day. And sometimes when I journal, I have things I really want to get out there. So then I'm taking time and I'm really processing through my thoughts. But spend time with that. There are so many distractions in our lives that if you just spend a little bit of time with your own thoughts, you're going to see how much more powerful you are when you spend more time with yourself. I recently went to a retreat, and for 4.5 days, we weren't able to have electronics. So I didn't have a phone, I didn't have TV, I had nothing. I had me and my thoughts and a lot of meditation. And I tell you that it was a shock to me number one, it was a shock how much I didn't miss my phone. I was really nervous about the fact that I wasn't going to have a phone for that long. I didn't miss it. The other thing is I realized how much time I truly wasted spending on my phone, on my device, telling myself I was doing work, telling myself I was doing things, but really in the end, it came down to wasted time. And that 4.5 days of sitting with myself and sitting with my thoughts and allowing myself to take the time to process, not to push through things, not to try to get away from things, but really spending time with my thoughts. It cleared my mind, and so many things that felt heavy and hard before that seemed to just lift away. Leading into the next thing of meditation. That's my number 4 tool. Meditation is one of those things that I have had a sense that for the last 20 years that I just knew there was something about meditation that would be beneficial to me, but honestly, I didn't know anything about it. I'm in rural North Dakota. There's not a lot of people or places to go to learn to meditate or to practice meditation or, even to know what it was. I didn't get it. I thought that meditation was sitting quietly with my thoughts, not with my thoughts. I thought it was sitting quietly, having no thoughts, and that's what you did in meditation. You sat there for a half hour, you closed your eyes, you put your fingers together, and you sat with blankness. That's not exactly what meditation is. And as I began to learn, and as I began to work through that, I realized that what meditation truly is a little bit of what I was just saying, that it is spending time with yourself, spending time with your thoughts, spending time with your emotions and your feelings, and allowing those things to kind of work through and process. So often in our society, feelings are something that we try to shove away, we try to shove down, we try to push away, or we try to, say, I'm going to have willpower and I'm just going to be happy. I'm not going to be sad. I'm not going to be mad. I'm going to be happy. And you try to force that to come through. And that isn't always, well, in my opinion, it's never the best way to deal with things, because those emotions and those feelings are going to continue to come back up. You can only force yourself with willpower for so long, then you get to a place where it's going to come back. And that's when you get into the habit and pattern of saying, why does this always happen to me? This is happening again. Meditation is an opportunity for you to sit with those things and to see and understand and become curious about the patterns and the emotions that continue to come up. Fifth tool that I would offer to you is consistency. Practice, 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 practice. I'm currently going through a course that Tony Robbins put together, and Dean, I forget Dean's last name, the KBB method. And one of the things that they talk about over and over and over is repetition and consistency. We can have all the tools in the world to change our lives, to change our mindset, to help us be happier. But unless you're putting them into practice, they're really not doing you any good. Until you are willing to do them over and over and over until they become just a natural part of your life, they're not going to help you, and they're not going to help you achieve the goals that you want to achieve. That's it in a nutshell. I could keep talking. I love talking about this stuff, but I really want to get to Dr. Darren Leaton and have him share some information with you guys. So let me tell you a little bit about him. I'm going to read the bio. Dr. Darren Leaton is an orthopedic surgeon specializing in knee and shoulder pathologies in sports medicine. He is a team physician for both USA hockey and ski teams. He is currently studying for his restorative anti-aging medicine fellowship. Darren and his wife Tamra, an RN, are truly people of strong Christian faith and passionate about helping others. They are both in the medical field and realize the amazing potential of what we have our hands on with Nerve2 activation. I have had the pleasure of getting to know Darren and Tamra over the last few months, and they're an absolute blessing to us and our family. They're a blessing to this business, to this industry, and I am so excited to have Darren on his first Sunday night training call. Darren, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Ah, there you are. Okay, we're going to start off with this. I asked Darren if I could ask this question because I know when I started my LifeVantage business, if somebody like Darren would have come on to do the training, I would have thought, how do I find someone like him? How do I build the courage to go speak to an orthopedic surgeon, to go speak to any medical person in the industry? And so what I wanted to ask Darren to share with all of you, because this is something I would have wanted to know, and I still want to know, is, Darren, could you share with us from your perspective, what was it? How did Susie, your enroller, get your attention with this? And what was it that you saw that you think other people could use to reach out to individuals like yourself?
All right. Well, I think probably the best way to start would be to kind of talk about relationship. Susie and I had relationship. And through that, which was a work relationship, it was easier, I think, for her to approach me in a real non-threatening manner. I knew the information she was wanting me to look at was multi-level marketing, just because of looking at a few things. But honestly, that wasn't why I shied away. It was just I didn't have time. I just truly didn't have time. And without getting injured, which I believe is someday I'll think it's a blessing. I don't feel that way right now, but it was a blessing in disguise, in that I had the time then to really look at the studies, get to know some of the nuances about NRF2, NRF1, kind of how this applies, get a better understanding about oxidative stress, and has really kind of catapulted me onto this journey of now doing a restorative anti-aging fellowship, changing the direction of my orthopedic practice as far as trying to support people better preoperatively, postoperatively. But ultimately, for me, it was the science that won the day. Getting a chance to see it, having an opportunity to hear one of the very intense science presentations. So being able to kind of have that science put out there for me was huge. And then having time to digest it. One thing I'll give Susie credit for, she was persistent. She would give me 2-3 weeks and kind of pop in again and, hey, have you looked at that? And no, not yet, but I'm getting there. I'll do it when I can do it. And, but she kept there, didn't push so much that I got frustrated with her. But by getting back to me, I realized that she believes this is important. And when I had the time, it was like, well, let's take a look at this. Let's really spend some time looking at it. So for me, that was kind of the process of how I came around. And then once I realized what I had my hands on from the science standpoint, that's when I was kind of all in, like, this just makes too much good sense. I can't argue with the science.
That's fantastic. Before you begin on the training part, I just want to point something out to what you just said to everybody in case they missed it. Darren just repeated something that I said, is in that Susie's consistent follow-up. You know, we've all heard the statistics. If you've been to an event, you hear the statistics of how little people follow up. Here's a perfect example of not too much. She gave him his space, gave him time, but still followed up. And if you ever have spoken to Maria Williams, she will tell you a very similar story about speaking to Dr. Mark Gordon. Same thing. It was consistency and the follow-up and just that relationship. And he eventually said, I knew that this woman was going to call me again on Monday because she told me she'd call me in 2 weeks Monday. I knew she was going to call me, and I thought, okay, I'm just going to look at this already. So thank you for pointing that out. I think that's helpful and interesting to a lot of people. And I'm going to turn this over to you for the science portion.
Great. So I wanted to talk about the new NRF2 study where they looked at the salt-induced vascular dysfunction. And understand, as an orthopedic surgeon, I don't typically look at cardiovascular studies, but with Protandim being involved, certainly the interesting parts that I've tweaked out of this from my standpoint was the fact that when they basically took the study hamsters as well as rats and divided them into the high sodium diet with and without Protandim, just after 2 weeks, when they compared the controls with the high salt alone, Protandim supplementation basically took care of the epithelium-dependent vasodilatation, allowing that response to be maintained. Fancy kind of medical stuff. Bottom line, vasodilatation or enlarging of the arteries is a controlled circumstance that our body does naturally. We have vasoconstriction with stress. And then we have vasorelaxation. And if our ability to control that is taken away, we can stay in a chronically restricted state. And that chronically restricted state leads to hypertension. In addition, if we're not having good oxidative stress control in our arteries, what's going to happen is we're going to have vascular changes to the endothelium that they're talking about here that were directly affected by Protandim. Those changes now make things happening in the artery static. One of the things that I was able to kind of take away from my initial module and my fellowship and kind of understanding, you know, oxidative stress in the vascular system is that I think there's a huge shift that's kind of coming around in looking at cardiovascular disease, looking at plaque formation, and truly it being a chronic inflammation status in the vessels and their inability to respond to that chronic inflammation, oxidative stress. And this plays perfectly into that, pointing out that Protandim has direct effect on the blood vessels. The other thing that, from my standpoint in looking at this, they talked about the idea of mitochondria, and that there were some lower staining of oxidizing species for the mitochondria, some fancy wording that basically, when I look at that, what I see is that there's positive mitochondrial benefit out of Protandim for the endothelium. The oxidizing species of the mitochondria, as I understand it, would be breakdown or injury to the mitochondria, that you're seeing these oxidizing species. The free radicals damaging the mitochondria, hence leading to these oxidative species, is what I understand of that. So to me, that's encouraging that we're getting some mitochondrial benefit in that realm, having the Protandim helping with oxidative stress, reduction of free radicals. It would have been really interesting to know and maybe this is going to be a follow-up study that they'll do, but the idea of the upregulation of glutathione and that 300%, it's huge in the oxidative stress realm, but it's also a chelator or a remover of heavy metals. So for people with mercury, lead, arsenic accumulations, it can detox them that way. And I'm just wondering, is that part of what is one of the big benefits here in the vessels is the glutathione, the fact that it's upregulated as much as it is? It's not, all I got was the abstract, so I didn't get to see more of the paper. It's my understanding that the full paper isn't available. Couldn't pull it up at this time. But that would be one of the things that I wonder if they're going to be doing as some follow-up and doing some immunoassays and trying to just look at some of the particular enzymes that are a part of this process. They did look at the nitric oxide and how that plays in with nitroglycerin, as I remember from my medical school days, which you'll have to forgive me, that was 25 years ago. And interesting that was something that wasn't changed as far as it still had its effect. So that is kind of my nutshell look at this. The exciting things I really took away were that for those people who are struggling with hypertension, those people who are struggling with vascular disease, I think this is just another good example of how we're getting a vascular benefit from Protandim. And I believe it's multifactorial. When you see the mitochondria, your benefits that you were seeing here, it's doing multiple things, and that it's taking care of those free radicals. So I don't know if you had anything else, Christy, specific that you wanted to discuss. I have some other things I could go over, but I don't want to kind of misuse my time.
Hey, Dr. Darren, it's Michelle Poe. I don't see Christy on here. I don't know if something happened that she went off. So if you want to just continue with what you were thinking, that would be a blessing.
Okay. So I kind of touched a little bit on the glutathione, and that was one of the things at my fellowship that really kind of brought a lot of this Protandim upregulation, glutathione, superoxide dismutase, catalase, and additional things in relation to this. A lot of what's kind of happening in our health world, and as we age, how we're struggling with health is hormonal imbalances, which glutathione is huge in basically getting the detoxification of hormones in our body taken care of. There's phase 1 and phase 2 detoxification that occurs, and glutathione deficiencies can lead to a lack of conversion from getting the initial breakdown of a hormone, when it's actually more of a potential cancer-causing agent at that point, to then be broken down into something that the body can get rid of through the liver. Glutathione was huge in that. And that was news to me. I had kind of just lost that stuff as far as my understanding from medical school, since I hadn't been looking at it or thinking about it as an orthopedic surgeon. But then the other thing is when you look at being able to upregulate glutathione in the cell, the critical thing of that is when they're treating Parkinson's, when they're treating these other disease processes by trying to give people IV glutathione or somehow getting glutathione into the blood vessels, the reason that doesn't work is glutathione is actually a marker that our liver recognizes to pull toxins out of our body. So when glutathione finds a mercury in our brain cells, it can actually reduce that from something that only can be kept in fat, makes it something that can actually now dissolve in water, leave the brain, and the glutathione almost acts like it's holding its hand up as it goes by the liver saying, hey, here I am. And it pulls the glutathione, which is attached to that mercury or that arsenic or the lead, and removes that toxin through our bile. I had forgotten all that stuff. And to me, that was kind of a real wake-up call as to one of the alternate advantages of having upregulation of glutathione through Protandim and doing, acting on the NRF2 pathway. So that I thought was just another positive as to why you could talk to somebody now with Parkinson's or some of these other neurodegenerative issues, where we have some thoughts potentially about aluminum playing into Alzheimer's. We have some thoughts about other heavy metals playing into some of these neurodegenerative issues. There's a potential that truly what's happening is the glutathione is going in and helping remove those heavy metals. Those heavy metals actually stop enzymes from working. And in that way, if you can get it out, you can potentially have the healing of the actual cell itself, the pathways restored. So that to me was real exciting and is firing me up to actually spend a little more time and very thankful that I'm doing kind of the fellowship that I am. So that was a big one for me.
So Darren, maybe to kind of wrap up a little bit is, would you talk about how you use or recommend or how you use Protandim in your practice and with patients?
So prior to having the understanding about Protandim, I was always giving people antioxidants along with magnesium, zinc, to help in the healing process, support the body during a high stress, high oxidative stress scenario. I didn't think of it as oxidative stress at the time, but that's truly what I was doing, and supporting them with vitamin C and vitamin D, and having them, work on their diet and all those things. So what I've shifted to is not pushing the C and the D and the vitamins as much, and saying, you know what, I think I have a better option for you, which is actually giving me those indirect benefits from upregulation with Protandim for NRF2, helping the mitochondria for healing with NRF1, and then still supporting with magnesium and zinc, calcium, and the things that are the building blocks that they need. So I talk to them about trying to do something at least a month before surgery, and then I like to do at least 3 months after surgery. Now, at that point, it's to them, as far as what they're experiencing, my hope is they're going to go, wow, there's more than what I anticipated with this whole scenario of surgery. I'm realizing I have some other things that are improving. My biggest struggle in my practice right now is just having some limitations as to how much I can talk. As an employed physician, I have some limitations as to what I can and can't do. So I've just been putting it out there, giving people opportunity, and trying to educate as best I can so that they understand the benefits. I think if people can truly understand and take the time, to me, this is a no-brainer. But obviously, that's because I understand it. The hard part is educating.
There's so much more we could go into. There's just so much goodness here. I want to respect everyone's time. It's just 9 o'clock, a little bit after. Darren, is there anything else that you want to end with, that you want to share with people as they continue to go out and share this information with other people?
In talking, one of the things you had pointed out that Susie did well was the follow-up. The other thing she did well is she did get a third-party validation, Dr. Gordon, to actually spend the time talking with me. I think we had an hour on a Saturday where we just kind of walked through. He talked to me about his clinical experience, some of the struggles he had with how he was bringing this into his practice and what that meant, and talked a little bit about the science and third-party works. And I think in the scenario with me as a physician, that was kind of the final linchpin that brought it all together of going, okay, I get it. I can see this. I can see how it kind of fits in, and understanding how somebody had, although not being in orthopedics, he was a cardiologist, but seeing kind of that process of what he went through and how he kind of put it into his clinical experience. That was a thing that really kind of tipped me. So I shout out for third parties whenever you can.
That is a great piece to end this on. So I think, as Darren is saying, you guys, has repeated everything that we hear up on stage from our leaders, and that is take the time to build relationships. Take the time and follow up, follow up, follow up. Don't do it to the point of annoyance. Don't be checking in with them every day necessarily. Know who you're speaking to. Tailor the way you approach somebody in your relationship with them, and knowing that they're busy. I mean, people are busy. It's busy lives. We can't expect people to get back to us immediately on our terms. It's on their terms. And then I think that was perfect. Third-party validation. And knowing who you're speaking to. And we have a huge network of LifeVantage family here, huge network. So put it out there, put it out to the groups that you're in, and to the Facebook groups or to your upline, and ask, who do we know that I could get on the phone with this person? And that's in a similar industry, and that can take the time and speak to them at that level that they understand. So Dr. Leaton, thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yes, it was a pleasure. And everybody else, have a beautiful Sunday evening, and we will see you next week. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That